Good afternoon. Welcome to this special Cabinet meeting to deal with matters of local government reorganisation. This meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of the meeting will remain online for 4 years, and if you are present in the chamber, you are consented to appearing in the recording and broadcast, which may also be used for training purposes. First item on the agenda is apologies. I don't have any, so we'll move on. Is there any declarations of interest? There's nobody. Nope. Public question time. David.
You, so I do have
We did miss you last night. We did miss you.
Well, getting money for the county is more important to me for bus services.
Number one.
Yeah, that's what the county council wants. We need. So on the issue of the reorganisation, if you were to go ahead with Greater Gloucester, the issue that would concern us as public transport users and stakeholders is how you would envisage highways and transport being delivered, not just in the city region, but also across the county. It's a small public transport unit we've got, as you probably know, Jeremy, not a huge number of staff. So how we procure about £20 million worth of bus services and infrastructure, lesser or good as far as we're concerned when it comes to shelters around Gloucester, which need an awful lot of improvement, as Declan and I have talked about a lot. But how would you envisage those issues like public realm, public transport, highways, which at the moment are a county-wide service, and also with Western Gateway Transport Board, which is also going to go. How would you envisage a joint arrangement for that going forward?
Well, I would have thought it might well be that the two local authorities would work together in commissioning contracts with highway engineers to do the work, and that both authorities would probably buy into that, but nothing's certain. That'll have to be decided. Let's understand, up until 2005, Gloucester City Council was a highway agent, and a lot of the highway works were done by this council under the agency agreement that we had with the county council. It was just the major projects the county would lead on, but road resurfacing, pavement repairs, repairing curbs and all that sort of stuff was a matter for the city council. Public transport, obviously, when you're linking transport into the city, that you would want to ensure that the routes were right. But the current situation is that the bus companies would come up with their proposals, and most of the services in Gloucester are already run on a commercial basis. It's just the subsidised services. But I would have thought again, where you've got a bus that you need to link through from the far corners of Gloucestershire into the city, then both local authorities would collaborate on commissioning that work. But David, there's a lot of detail that needs to be gone into. But the other thing is, we'd have more say over things like cycle lanes going through our pedestrian area than we have now.
I'm concerned about number two is what's happening in Surrey, really. If we divide Greater Gloucester, East and West Gloucestershire, which is what the MPs and Labour Party want to do, then the concern would be that would only work if you had a combined authority for the big services, regional planning, spatial planning, big transport schemes, housing, regional housing, education, as we can see, health. And even in the last 3 weeks and yesterday or day before, they were talking about merging the police forces, which is now government policy. Now the commissioners are going. So regional government is very important. But we have a concern here, and that is if we don't join WECA in 2029, West Midlands Mirror Combined Authority, but wait to 2032, when the next opportunity might be, we would be left without a combined authority for Gloucestershire, whether you have East and West or Greater Gloucester. So what representations is the city making to ministers and MPs? And I think there's unanimity on the combined authority issue, from Moulton in the Marsh to the Forest of Dean, although I'm not sure what the Forest, but certainly from Moulton in the Marsh, from Cirencester, from Tewkesbury and Stroud, that the correct way for Gloucester to go is back into the old county, which includes Bristol and South Gloucester, to the West of England Mirror Combined Authority. So what representations are being made by Gloucester City Council with other leaders and the county to make sure that we do move forward on a mayoral combined authority, because that is the great prize for economic development of Gloucester.
I think you'll find that a lot of the services you mentioned wouldn't necessarily be directly delivered by the mayor in such a way. These strategic mayors, I think, will be doing is, they call it devolution, is a good big dollop of money will be handed down to the mayor for that area, and then they would start allocating money to resources. So in future, maybe if we wanted a regeneration project done in Gloucester, we'd be talking directly to the mayor, because they would have a large pot of money, rather than talking to MHCLG, which might be the case now. As far as which combined authority Gloucestershire will choose, I'm not sure for certain. I think the West of England Combined Authority is a favoured one. We'd have to get agreement with the current mayor there to allow us to join. I think having two authorities in Gloucestershire might help that. And it would also mean that if we did join WECA, having a Greater Gloucester Council, that Gloucester will be represented around the table, just as Bristol is and just as Bath is. Thank you for that one. There's no petitions and deputations. There's no question time from members. The next one is the decision on whether to send our Greater Gloucester proposal to the government. And we had a big and vigorous debate last night. And there's an overall majority on this council for us to go with the Greater Gloucester model. So I'm recommending today that we propose that. It will create a new dynamic, urban focused unitary council. Population around 180 to start with, probably rising within 10 or 20 years to 200, maybe 210,000 population, be the same size as Bath and North East Somerset. And it will be delivering for the city and the surrounding parishes that are already linked. There was a question on the number of parishes. It's 21 that surround the current city, but 22 when you include Quedgeley Town Council. The area is already economically and socially linked. The new council will enhance the status of a historic mayor and sheriff, which was in debate last night. Members were concerned about what would happen to those roles, but they would become automatically, I would have thought, the chair and vice chair of the new unitary authority, and they'd have a bigger domain and a more powerful council, rather than being consigned in future to an alternative, which is a parish council with no powers whatsoever, other than maybe cleaning the streets in a few places. It will give us the opportunity to unify our housing, homeless and social services, and dedicated to Gloucester's demographics, which are different from the rural parts of the county. It will allow the city to continue its urban regeneration without requiring a permission from councillors from outside our patch. You know, the projects that we've been doing in the city over the years have been down to members of this council making decisions, and doesn't necessarily need the approval of everybody else. So I think in a single mega unitary authority, Gloucester would always be begging for permission to do things, rather than putting in bids It would give us a seat at the table of the combined mayoral authority, just like Bath has, and just like Bristol has, and Gloucester's just as important as they are. We've been here 2,000 years. Bath's a Roman city as well. Also, other cities are also looking at putting in bids for submissions for unitary-based authorities based on their cities. Some places like Exeter, Oxford and Lincoln. So we're not alone. It's what others are doing around the country, and most of them clearly are Labour authorities, which means we might have a very strong case to put for Gloucester to have its own city-based unitary. Frankly, if Exeter gets it and Oxford gets it and Lincoln gets it, then we should get it as well. We have a mandate from the council. We have an overall majority. The vote was taken last night. There was 17 votes in favour of the Greater Gloucester, just 4 for the East-West, 10 for the single unitary, and 1 abstention. Clear majority in favour of the Greater Gloucester option. So I think we should deposit it. The recommendation says, asks us to decide and to delegate to the managing director in consultation with the leader the authority to make any necessary non-material amendments to the final proposal, to draft a covering letter and submit the final proposal to the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. Rebecca, do I have a seconder for that? Yeah, Rebecca.
Yes, it's quite an exciting moment, I think, for Gloucester, actually. The Greater Gloucester model is a bold and transformative proposal that can really reshape this city. And it is more than just a change, I believe, in structure. It's a chance to build a system that really reflects the needs, identity and aspirations of all our communities within Gloucester. I truly believe that a dedicated Greater Gloucester Council would allow us to focus our energy and resources where they're needed most, giving us the better services tailored to our residents. It also means a more responsive local government with decisions made by people who understand our city, and it means unlocking those opportunities for growth, housing, jobs, regeneration on our terms and nobody else's. This proposal strengthens that voice, and with our own council we can take that rightful place in regional partnerships like that of the West of England Combined Authority. We'd certainly be in a better position to attract investment and influence transport and infrastructure decisions, which has already been said today, and champion our city's future without the distraction of the challenges of what a rural Gloucestershire could actually become. So we have one council, one point of contact, one Gloucester to serve Gloucester's residents, and I believe this would be empowered and resilient and thriving. So therefore, I think we should embrace this opportunity to build this council, and it should certainly be considered for further consultation in 2026. And therefore, I really do hope the government will see its merits and be chosen for this next stage in the process.
Thank you. Sarah.
I'm pleased that we're submitting this Greater Gloucester proposal. Like I said last night, the other 2 proposals I feel have got good intentions, but they're flawed. The one unitary is too big. Where are we going to sit 100 councillors for a start? And imagine how long the meeting's going to be and how diluted everyone's voice will be. The East-West one is doomed from the start. Gloucester will be in debt and will continue that way. You can't parish Gloucester. We can't be one of 200 parishes on a par with Churchdown and Brockworth. We are the county capital, the beating heart of this county, and we need to be able to make the decisions about Gloucester, not members from the Forest or the Cotswolds. We will have a quarter of the population of the county in our district. Our proposal is financially sound and compliant as confirmed by the government. It has an obvious divide between urban and rural, and where it makes sense to share services, we will. Like Jeremy said, many other small cities are submitting similar proposals, and I think that this is the best option for Gloucester.
Declan next.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. First of all, can I say that I thought the debate last night, if you discount the usual bad behaviour and snidey comments from the usual suspects. From the rest of the members, I thought a lot of the contributions were very good. And this is contributions from all sides. I thought good points were made all round, and it's something that people obviously care about, and they should care about. With regards to myself, I did say, when this all started, initially I thought that the one country approach was the best, but the more I thought about it and the more I looked into it and thought about how this is going to affect all of us, I changed my mind. And I think that of the proposals before, the Greater Gloucester one is the best, simply for several reasons. First of all, we have to be careful here because over the next, we're going to have to deliver something, a form of local government that will have to deliver improved outcomes and services for residents over the next 50 years. So in many ways, this is a bit of history here because, people still talk about local government reorganisation from the early 70s. Well, this is the new modern equivalent. So we have to get this right. And the reason why I like this particular model the best is 3 or 4 reasons. One, it's built around the fact that Gloucester is actually quite unique within the county. We're the youngest, most diverse and most urban part of the county. We have the highest levels of social need. So therefore, our needs are not going to be the same as the rest of the county's needs. And in my view, a single approach for the whole county that fails to recognise these differences is not going to work. So, and I can't see how it could possibly do, simply because it's too big. I also think the proposal that we've got here has got the right balance of scale necessary. Scale on the one hand and being local on the other. Because it'll create a unitary authority of around 178,000 people. It's large enough to be financially resilient and strategically capable, but it's still small enough to remain rooted in place. Now, I know one of the members got up last night and he produced lots of letters from the great and the good and the institutions within the county all saying that they supported the county option. But, I'm more interested in listening to the ordinary people out there and the voters rather than certain people from certain institutions who, as I said, who we used to traditionally call the great and the good. They necessarily are not the same as the people that you speak to in the doorsteps when you go out door knocking. And these are the people that we have to deliver for. So I wouldn't think, for example, on Wednesday, I got a very nice email from a resident in Hucklecote. He was very friendly and said how much he supported the Greater Gloucester option, and if need be, a second choice would have been the county, but certainly not the east-west. And then he brought up various other issues. But those are typical of the emails that I get, and it's not necessarily scientific, but anecdotally, it would appear to me from the communications I've had with local residents is the Greater Gloucester one is the one that most people, certainly in the city, want. And therefore, as a local Gloucester representative, I think I have to listen to those views. But as it happens, I also genuinely believe this is the best option. I also think it's best option for the rest of the county. It will create 2 complementary, well-balanced unitaries, Greater Gloucester and Gloucestershire Unitary, and allow each area to focus on what it does best. Gloucester will be able to focus on driving the city-led growth that Jeremy has already referred to, and tackling the urban social challenges. The rural and market town districts and the Gloucestershire Unitary will be able to focus on they've got a population of a different demographic. They've got more of an ageing population. They've got a rural connectivity issues, environmental protection, and of course Cheltenham itself has got the new cyber-led economy they're trying to build. So those are different priorities for which each of the 2 unitary authorities would have to focus on, and I think they'd be better doing it as complete units themselves. And finally, the other point I would want to make is, if anything, the politics over the last year has taught us it's how important identity is. Public engagement across all districts was clear. People value their identity and do not want it diluted. And I think the Greater Gloucester option will strengthen our historic identity as one of England's major cathedral cities. It'll give us a council that can celebrate and focus on what works best for us. I don't believe that a single 659,000 mega council would be able to do that. It would be the 3rd biggest in the country after Birmingham and Leeds. And frankly, it's just too big. And if what's happening, particularly in Birmingham, has taught us that bigger isn't always better. So I think when you look at all the options, the only one that, the one's got the most credibility and the one that's most likely to be success would be the Greater Gloucester one. And I certainly would support being that, making that our submission.
Okay, thank you. I think it was Luke next.
Thank you. There'd been a lengthy debate at full council last night, which I think is right for a decision as important as this, and it ensures that it's democratic. There was some thoughtful contributions from many members, even when there was disagreement. But unfortunately, there was also some abusive comments as well. This proposal will shape our city for sort of generations to come. I believe it will deliver the best outcome for residents and the services. As I said in the debate, our residents must remain sort of front and centre to any decisions that we make. Cities across the country play unique roles in people's sense of place and belonging. So it's vital that that's not forgotten. And that's why I'm supporting this submission. This model covers urban areas of Gloucester, but also rural areas of Gloucestershire as a whole. It proposes 2 unitary councils to deliver on that, not just looking at Gloucester individually. This approach will protect services for local people and deliver them at a local level, which I feel is important, which a mega council most certainly won't. Delivering rural services in a rural way, allowing the urban areas like Gloucester to be done in a more city-focused way. So I'm very proud that we're firmly fighting for our residents. I believe it's right that we support the Greater Gloucester model, and I'm pleased that it was supported by a majority at full council last night, ensuring Gloucester residents most certainly have a voice in the future.
Sebastian.
Thank you. I was very proud to vote for Greater Gloucester yesterday evening. It was in places a very contentious debate, and there were some quite nasty comments from certain members. But I think what was heartening was the fact that we had some members speaking who perhaps haven't spoken before in council or not very often, and there was a good quality to what they were saying. It was really inspiring. I think it's about democracy. I think this model is the most democratic option because it treats Gloucester as its own centre that needs its democracy to be near to where its residents are. I think there's a great risk of a democratic deficit with the single unitary or even the East-West model, because you'll have the centres of power quite remote from where actually the decisions need to be made. I think that the Greater Gloucester model is compelling. I think it's the one that most gives us the chance to recognise and preserve our history. As the leaders mentioned, we have 2,000 years of history in this city. And in particular, I think that our history and our great moments in our past tend to be about Gloucester and Gloucester people being radical, standing up for what they believe in, whether it's standing on the parliamentary side in the Civil War, which actually could be said to it harmed us in the long term. You know, we stood up, Ethelfled stood up for Gloucester, now possibly buried in your garden, I believe, Leader, near there, anyway. You know, William the Conqueror ordering the Domesday Book to be carried out, and he did that from Gloucester in 1085 when he had his parliament in the city. And there's lots of different things like that. The mock mayor, that was us cocking a snook at King Charles II for when he tore down the city walls. And we've always stood up for what we believe, even when it's actually harmed us, and there's been pressure on us not to do it. And I think there was pressure on us last night to not support this, but I think we made the right decision. We had an overwhelming majority, over 50% of all the councillors voted in favour of this. I think it's right that they did that, and that I think it's right that we had a vigorous debate, but I think it's now decided, and I think we've made the right call.
Caroline?
Yeah, it was a good lively debate last night, wasn't it? And like others have said, I think a lot of good points were made on all sides for all three options, because all three options do have their strengths, some more than others, in my opinion. It seemed the main argument for the single unitary seemed to be focused more around the efficiencies that would be made. I think that would turn out to be a fallacy, quite honestly. I think it's unlikely that services would be run more efficiently, because as you often see with organisations, when they become very large and unmanageable, they become less efficient, particularly around decision making and responding quickly to unexpected shocks and events. So then you're looking at, well, what would the financial efficiencies be then? And again, I think one of the criticisms of this whole LGR proposal is that those financial savings just won't be made in the end. The cost of implementing it, the cost of reorganising everything, and just the ongoing costs are unlikely to see the kind of savings that people are saying that it will. And as we've seen with some of the larger unitaries already, such as Birmingham, they're not doing so well financially, are they? So I don't think it necessarily means that just because that's the objective, that's how it's going to turn out. So for me, it needs to be two unitaries. The East-West split has its benefits too. But for me, with Greater Gloucester, I think putting it in the mix doesn't prevent the other two proposals going in. They're going in anyway. They've got their submission confirmed. I think putting Greater Gloucester into the mix just means that residents will be given the option, when public consultation starts, they'll be given the option to be consulted on all three and to put their views forward on all three, instead of councillors deciding which two they're allowed to comment on. So I think we're giving them more choice and more say in what it's going to look like next by putting this in the mix. And I think whichever way you split the county, all 6 districts have their unique identities. So you're never going to get a two-way split where everybody in each part is completely aligned in terms of need and culture. But I do think that the Greater Gloucester option is the only one that's really considered the fact that Gloucester is a very urban population. It's a city with different needs to smaller, more rural communities. And I don't think that's really been considered very much in the other two proposals. So I think it's only right that we include this so that people, the residents of Gloucester and the residents of the rest of the county, have all three options that they can compare and give their feedback on.
Thank you. I do think there's a real strong case to argue that both the proponents of the other two authorities just completely ignored Gloucester from the start and were completely intransigent in looking at the impact of reorganisation would have on the historic city of Gloucester. The East-West split, as one of our members said, smelled a bit of gerrymandering. It quite clearly doesn't consider the city of Gloucester at all. It's just dumped most of Gloucester into the West Authority, which will have a £21 million deficit in its budget on day one, and see whether we can survive, while the east of the county would have a £21 million surplus from day one, so they'd have more cash to spend on their service, even though in the east or in the city of Gloucester we've got more social issues to deal with. The single county one was a rush to go ahead with that by Stephen Davis, the former leader of the county council. He didn't consult anybody other than his cabinet, and put in a request to suspend the elections. wrote to the minister along with 4 of the other district council leaders, said, no, the elections must go ahead. You cannot suspend democracy. And what happened? Despite them fighting an election on the basis that they wanted to save the county and not have anything else, they didn't consider what would happen to Gloucester. They lost. They went down from 28 members to 6, the lowest number of Conservatives that sit on Gloucestershire County Council than I can ever remember. So, but we were stuck throughout this process on others not willing to listen. Sebastian made the point about the siege. I always think this feels like the second siege of Gloucester, in that we've got everybody from outside that doesn't care about Gloucester, really doesn't care. Neither of the options have even suggested what powers a town council, if we had to have one, would have. They'll all be decided once we've got reorganisation. It'll all be decided, if it was a county one, by the county unitary. And will they give Gloucester a decent town council, which would be the biggest in the country? No, they won't. They'll be saying, we can't have that because we can't have that in our small town council. But we've got, the Greater Gloucester model, and that council will serve the city really well for year after year, after decade after decade. And it will make sure that we retain our status as the county town, and that we can develop the city in a dynamic way. And we'll have Gloucester Business Park, for example, back in Gloucester. That's where they made the Gloucester Aircraft Company. It was called after Gloucester. It wasn't called after Cheltenham or anywhere else. It was Gloucester Aircraft Company. That will be part of our authority. Saffron will be part of our authority. We've got the University of Gloucestershire will be part of our authority. Similarly, Hartley College and University will be part of our authority. Gloucestershire Royal Hospital will be here, again, part of our authority. So there's lots of things, by bringing them all together, will create a much stronger local authority than this city council will ever be, on the size of footprint and the powers we have. We've got to remember that this will be a multi-million, in the hundreds of millions, local authority, and we'll have more than 1,000 staff. The new Greater Gloucester Council will be totally different from this one, and it will be elected. And we don't know who's going to be elected because we don't know who the candidates are going to be. But we will have about 52 members from day one. So we're not too big. I mean, the mega council can't even fit all the councillors in. There's only enough seats for 60 people, so I don't know how they're going to debate issues in their council chamber because it's too small. At least we'll be able to debate that. We might want Shire Hall as well. We'll have to think about that one, whether we move into Shire Hall and whether we share some of the office accommodation with the other local authority. Those are things we have to decide in the future. But the most important thing is we put this bid into the government, like other cities are going to do, and see what the government says. I think this is a very strong case, and I think one of the reasons why we've had such vitriol from some is they see it as a strong case, and rather than debate it, they want to ridicule it because they don't want it to happen. And I don't know why they don't want it to happen, but there is an attempt by the people that don't live in the city to leave us with nothing, and that's a great danger. We'd have nothing if we don't win this argument with the government. So can I now take a vote that we agree to put in the Greater Gloucester submission?
Unanimous.
That's unanimous. A clear majority of the Cabinet and a clear majority of Council last night. Thank you. I'll close the meeting.